Hey guys, we're going to go ahead and talk today about Stave 5 of A Christmas Carol. Stave 5 is the end of it. I've even got my Christmas tie on today, in a festive mood. But Stave 5 is obviously the last stave, the last chapter in the novel, and it deals with everything that happens after Scrooge's interactions with the four spirits: Jacob Marley, the ghost of Christmas past, Christmas present, and a ghost of Christmas yet to come. And here he wakes up after having seen his grave, seeing all the things that are going to happen to him in the future um, because of his actions, because of his behaviors, and he gets a chance to sort of redeem himself and make amends for it. And so it's it's very lighthearted. Um, Scrooge is extremely happy. The first part of it, he's so joyous that he's not going to be stuck in that nether world of spirits where he, like Marley, we has to roam around for eternity. And so he's extremely happy, as most of us probably would be in that situation. But he's so excited. He's dancing around. He's saying, "Oh, look, here's where all this stuff was. It really happened. This is a real thing." He opens up the window. He hears the bells ringing in the church towers, and so he opens up the window, and it's very cold, but still, um, it's exciting that he's alive. It's actually the next day, and the spirits have done this whole thing for him in one night. And Scrooge kind of laughs and says, "Well, of course they can. They can do anything they like." And he sees a little boy running by, and he asks him what day it is, and the kid says, "Well, it's Christmas Day." And he says, "Well, Scrooge is like, "I haven't missed it." And when he asks if he knows the poulterer on the next corner down the street, and if they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging there, and the boy says, "What? The one as big as me." And Scrooge laughs at that and then sends him off and offers to pay him a little extra if he can do it in 5 minutes to bring the turkey back to his house. So he pays for the turkey. He's going to send it to Bob Cratchit's house. Bob won't know who sent it to him. He sent it to him, so he's excited about that. And he also pays for the man to have a cab to go to Camden Town because it's a little bit of ways from where Scrooge would live. Camden Town, if you remember, is a little more working class, lower income people. Um, and so it's a little bit distance away from where Scrooge would live. But the rest of the morning, he gets dressed. He worries about cutting himself, shaving, because he's so excited, but he didn't care. And so he gets dressed, goes out amongst the people. He says Merry Christmas to people. He talks to people on the street, some of the homeless people, and really makes Christmas has become something important to him now. Um, and then on the way, he runs into one of the charity men who came to see him the day before to ask for a donation. Now, if you remember, what his response was pretty horrible, right? He says, these people should die, basically, and as he says, decrease the surplus population, get rid of them. We don't need them anymore. We just don't need them because they just are just a drag on us. Um, and so he mentions in the novel he's got to do it. He can't just ignore it. And so give Scrooge some credit for that. He went up and faced his problem head on, faced up where he really messed up. And I think that's a lesson for all of us, that we mess up, do something wrong, we can try to make things better, right? And so he talks to the man and whispers in his ear how much he's willing to give to the poor. And of course, we don't know how much it was, and I'm glad Dickens didn't tell us how much, because it's not really that important, the amount. But he gives must have been pretty large amount, pretty large sum, because the man was just taken aback and didn't know what to say to such munificence. And he said, "Well, just come and see me," and they promised to come and see him. And then he goes to Fred's house, of course, his nephew, his only living blood relative, and spends Christmas Day with him. Fred is overwhelmed that Scrooge would come and see him. Of course, it's funny because Scrooge, he doesn't. He walks by the door several times, back and forth, because he's not sure if he wants to knock on the door or not, because he's afraid that Fred will not want him to be there. But they do. They have a great party, and it was the party that he saw during the Ghost of Christmas Present. And so they have great food and drink and desserts and have a great time. And that next morning, of course, it's a work day, and so he got there extra early so he could catch Bob. He knew that Bob would be late. after celebrating Christmas with his family, and he was 18 and a half minutes behind his time. And of course, Cratchit is afraid he's about to get sacked, as they say in England, or in America we say get fired. Um, and he says, I'm not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer. He says that to Cratchit, come in here, and he says, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to stand for this thing any longer, and therefore I'm about to raise your salary. And kind of pokes Bob in the side in his waistcoat. And of course Bob is freaked out. He almost reaches for the ruler. He's going to knock Scrooge out and call for people to come bring a straitjacket because this guy's gone insane, right? And you think, well, that's ridiculous. He's going to raise his salary. Well, if you've been treated like that for so many years, like dirt, and for him to act like that was kind of bizarre. So Bob was within his right to feel that way. But then he says, Merry Christmas, Bob, and he said it in an earnestness that could not be misunderstood. I think that's the line, but he says it in a way that Bob knew that he was serious, and it was a wonderful moment. He says, I'm gonna help your struggling family, and I'm gonna raise your salary, go buy some more coal before you dot another I, Bob Cratchit, and Bob did that. And the ending of it is Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he became a second father. Tim lives. Just a wonderful ending to the story. People always even say, oh, come on, it's so over the top and a hyperbole in a way. It means over-exaggeration because of Scrooge's change. But, it even says that in the book at the end, the last paragraph or so, that many people laughed to see the alteration in him. Scrooge didn't care. He'd been saved from an eternity of misery, so what does he care what other people think? But it's just a wonderful, wonderful story of change that's possible. And Stave V ends with, of course, as Tiny Tim said, God blesses everyone, in a way that, well, it is the novel that way. That's the best way I can say it. The impact that this novel had on English society at the time was great. It sold like 3,000 copies in its first printing, just like that. It was an overnight success. They did not expect, I think Dickens fully expected that, but he wasn't sure. Of course, he staked a lot on that, on this book, and it was a great success. Donations to charitable organizations went up quite a bit. People got a hold of this book, started reading it, and seeing what they could do to help. There's government help, but at the same time, it's better if we, help and donate when we can, our time or money or material possessions that we can give to help people. And so it went up quite a bit. And also, Dickens is really credited with improving, but sort of bringing back the traditions that people celebrate at Christmas time. And it's just a great book. And so that's Stave V, and it's pretty short, but it really shows that this change is not something temporary or transitory. Scrooge has really made the change because it's the change he needed to make. So that's Stave V, and thanks a lot.